You were at the first ever Kansas City Wiz match back in April 13th of 1996. As we're coming up on that 25th anniversary and we're re-airing games on our website, can you talk a little bit about that experience, being at the first game?
Yeah. I was 9 years old at the time. My family was at the first ever game in 96. Remember Digital Takawira scoring the very first goal, and he did the digital crawl. My dad had told me about that beforehand, that we had brought in this striker, and he was famous. His nickname was famous, but he also had a famous celebration. So if he ever scored a goal, you had to watch him closely. So that was a cool moment. Other than that, there's not a ton of details that I remember. I was a regular 9-year-old kid, and went to the game with my family. There were some other families and friends that we all went to the game with. Some of my teammates that played on my youth soccer team that we all kind of sat together. So, yep, that was kind of it.
Hi, Matt. Karen Kornacki. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. I know you talked to Len, and he said you guys were doing things like yoga and whatever. But what has been the biggest challenge in staying in some kind of shape, even if you can't be in game shape, to when you're working alone or you're working with your family or you're working with a video? You guys are so highly trained. How do you keep any kind of edge when you're by yourself?
Yeah, it's difficult. I would say the biggest challenge for us is finding some sort of routine. We're habit-based athletes and creatures, and we thrive in that environment where we have some sort of competitive routine, and that's thrown out the window. There's not a whole lot of routines anywhere, with your family, with the team, with your daily life, meals. I mean, everything is just kind of crazy right now. So that's really the hardest part of, not only finding the time and the motivation to stay fit, but to be able to do it on a consistent basis. Whereas, when you're in season, everything's sort of happening at the same time. Each day, you come in the mornings, and you have your routines where you warm up and stretch, and afterwards you do your recovery routines and all those things. And we don't really have access to any of that stuff, so we kind of have to find our own routines. And I would say the other challenge too is just trying to get everybody on the same page from a communication standpoint, because we're all from different parts of the country and different parts of the world, and we all kind of are experiencing this in a different way, and it just makes it a lot harder when you're not able to see people face to face.
Hey Matt, Tom Bogert from Let'sTalk.com. Just going back to that first game, is that kind of where the seeds were sown of you kind of dreaming one day of being able to pull on a KC Wiz jersey and represent the city?
I wish I could say yes. It would make a much better story. Unfortunately, I can't really say that. I mean, I was a normal kid. I was a 9-year-old kid. I really wasn't thinking about becoming a professional soccer player while I was watching that game. I was focused on trying to convince my parents to get me cotton candy and doing the Macarena. I remember the Macarena was huge back then, and that was like a huge fan favorite. So that was really exciting. Up until then, soccer for me was just something that I played on my youth team. A bunch of kids from my school. But once Kansas City got this team, you got to learn about some of these players' backgrounds. They had different stories, and so that's kind of when I started following the game at a much higher level. So, I mean, I guess in some ways that was the start, but to answer your question, I mean, there wasn't like that moment, that aha moment where I was like, oh yeah, this is for sure what I'm going to do.
Matt, Nick Shea from 41 Action News. Thanks for doing this. I had a question. Is it, from my understanding, just about everybody in town, maybe outside of Buccio, is it tough to resist the temptation to get together and train?
Of course, we want to get together but we have to understand that, this is much bigger and, much more important than doing that at this moment. Every time we get together on our Zoom meetings, our Zoom workouts, a couple yoga sessions, yeah, I mean, you can just feel the energy within the group. Everyone misses each other. Soccer is a team game, so it's pretty hard to train by yourself. You can do like workouts like on the treadmill and weight workouts, but it's almost impossible to play soccer by yourself. You can go and work on certain skills, I guess, by yourself, or juggle a little bit in the backyard, or kick a ball against a wall, but to be honest, that's not very much fun. So, yeah, I mean, it will take some time. Once we get the green light here, hopefully at some point, it will take a few weeks of training, actually playing together on a big field to get that final piece of fitness. But that's how it always is. I mean, even in preseason, like in the off season when you're training, like you can train as hard as you want, and you can be in what you think is the best shape that you can possibly be in. And then you start playing games and you start playing actual soccer, and you realize, oh, okay, I'm not as fit as I thought I was. And it usually takes a couple of weeks to kind of get that final piece, if that makes sense.
This is Harold Koontz from Fox 4. How you doing, man?
Good.
Good. Major League Baseball trying to, propose sending all the teams to Arizona. I think NHL trying to go to North Dakota. NBA looking at Vegas. Would you be in favor of the MLS potentially trying to send all their teams to one specific location in order to try to get back on the field as quick as possible? Or are you just completely against those type of proposals?
At this point, I'd be open to pretty much anything, at least looking into it and discussing it. I don't know if it would make a whole lot of sense for soccer to do what baseball is looking at. I don't know if it could work like that, but I mean, I don't know. I think most of the players right now are anxious to get back out on the field. And so, I mean, any way possible for us to start playing games sooner, we would be open to the possibility. But we're just like everyone else, really. I mean, we're sitting back and we're seeing some of these news stories come out, and we're following other leagues and kind of seeing what they're announcing. And, we saw the other day that a couple professional soccer teams in Germany have resumed some smaller trainings and individual trainings, and so that was a positive sign to see. But yeah, I mean, we really haven't heard a whole lot.
Hey Matt, it's Blair Kirchhoff at the Star. Hey, how about taking us through what's been a typical day for you? When do you get training in, and how do you do it? And I know you've touched on a couple of those things already, but how about just walking us through a day in confinement here?
So we do team Zoom trainings 3 times a week, and there's 3 different groups. So we have roughly 30 guys on our roster, and so we split up into 3 groups. So you got 8 to 10 guys in each workout, and so that's 3 times a week. So my group, I'm in the first group, and those trainings are at 10:30. So 3 times a week, I train in my basement at 10:30 in the morning, and then the other 2 days you're on your own, and you can get that done whenever you want. But typical day for me is wake up with our kids. We have 2 young daughters, and spend about an hour with them, getting breakfast ready and kind of starting the day, and then I'll try and break off myself if I can and get my workout in. Usually it takes an hour to 2 hours at the most, and then I'm back with my family for lunchtime. Try and put the kids down, and then you have that hour or 2 where I'm doing a lot of stuff online right now with media, and there's a bunch of videos that we're trying to push out to try and keep everyone involved. There's also a lot of player union stuff that's coming out, and so just trying to stay up to date with that so I can inform the rest of the guys on the team. And then, the rest of the afternoon is pretty much family time. We're trying to go outside as much as possible, just get some fresh air and have dinner. And that's pretty much it. I don't know if I'm trying to think off the top of my head here. Yeah, I don't think I'd add anything else into kind of what a daily routine looks like. I have been interacting with the coaching staff a lot. I think Peter's done a really good job of staying in touch with most everyone. I know that he's called everybody on the team, a couple times, but I probably talk to Peter every couple days. Sometimes we're exchanging information, just the latest updates that we've heard. Other times, it's a quick phone call, basically just to check in and make sure everyone's doing all right and just checking in on the family. So the communication has been good.
Matt, it's Braylon from KCTV5. My question is just kind of, how are you handling this mentally? This has to be mentally taxing for you, especially when, the momentum was there. You guys were playing and then automatically just nothing. That has to be mentally taxing for you to now kind of be in this weird limbo area.
Yeah, I think at first it was. When all this started happening, there was definitely a sense of frustration. Just because, we had built such momentum and we put a lot of work into our preseason. So, just to have something like this that's just completely out of your control, it is a bit frustrating. But, I think, I don't know, me personally, I'm kind of past all that now. I think we're much farther along than we were at the beginning. So I wouldn't say that I'm mentally frustrated anymore. It's pretty much, there's nothing we can really do about it. So I think at first you were adamant about really trying to stay in shape, game shape as best as you could. But now it's been so long that we're going to have some sort of period where we get back into training and we have at least a couple weeks, 3 to 4 weeks of another preseason. So I don't know. I mentally, I wouldn't say that I've dropped off at all. You just kind of have to wait it out and just try and stay positive and just be patient. I know it's a lot easier said than done at this point.
Hey Matt, it's Todd Lebo, Sports Radio 810. At your point in your career, you played for a long time. Do you think you're maybe a little more equipped to kind of deal with this? You put yourself back in your 23, 24-year-old self and understand maybe how much more difficult this might be for you?
Yeah, like I said, one of the challenges is that we're all in different situations, really. Like the guys on the team, some guys have a house, some guys have a backyard where they can go out and get some fresh air, but other guys are, living in apartments or living downtown or, whatever the case may be. Some guys are from Kansas City, and other guys have spent a month in Kansas City, and this is a completely foreign city to them. So, I think every guy's different, but there's challenges that go along with whatever stage of life you're in. If I was younger, looking back, I think I probably would be even more frustrated because I feel like people would be taking away all this work that I've done and, some of these opportunities that are in front of me. And, I would want to be on the field playing and trying to prove myself to basically make it. Maybe some guys are in their final years of their contracts and, they're thinking, well, if we don't play games, then, how am I going to prove myself that, I deserve another contract? So, all that kind of stuff is going through everyone's mind, but just in different ways. And again, it's just something like this has never happened before, so I think everyone's just kind of dealing with it as best they can. And whenever we do start playing, I think everyone will be really looking forward to that moment.
This is Karen again, and I wondered, what do you think about the idea tonight that the blue lights will be shining from all different stadiums for the city to show the support of sports and for the sports teams to show their support, that we're all in this together even though we're all alone in our homes?
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. That's for me. That's one of the best parts about being from Kansas City and being a part of this community. I feel like we've always done a good job in Kansas City of coming together in certain times, and a lot of times you can see examples through sports of how our city comes together. Especially, in the last 10 years with us winning championships, Royals, and then Chiefs. It's been a pretty fun time to be a part of the sports community here in Kansas City, and I think that we've all played a very small part in that. Everybody, it's a fun city to be a part of, and I think everybody here in Kansas City has a pride for the city and for their sports teams, and so we all are fans of each other. We all are following each other, rooting for each other, the teams, and if this helps us as a city kind of come together and can provide something to feel connected to, then I'm all for it. I think it's a great idea.
Hey, Mark, Sean with Casey Star. Last week, Peter mentioned that he'd be willing to play Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, week in, week out. If it came to that, would you agree with that sentiment of playing basically 3 games every 7 days, and just what kind of physical toll would that take on the players across the league?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that it's almost it's hard to answer because we just don't know what's going to happen. Like as far as the time frame goes, I do think that whatever the date would be, so say you throw out July or June or whatever it is, I think you can still have a really good competitive season. And I think we're in a fortunate situation because our season just started where, like, if you're the NBA, you've already played 3/4 of your season. And, now what do you do? It's like, I think they're in a tougher situation than we are. I think once we know when we're able to come back and start training and start playing games, I think we'll have a better idea of what's possible. But, I think the players, we want to play as many games as possible. We want to have the most games, in our season as possible. So whatever it really takes for that to happen, I would say most of the guys would be for. If that was the case when we were playing Saturday, Wednesday throughout the entire season, we would for sure have to use our entire roster. There's no question about that. So I think it would be a much different season than most people are used to. I think there'd be a ton of changing the rosters. There'd be a lot more turnover between guys resting games and guys playing. But if everybody's doing that, then it's going to come down to who has the deepest team and who stays healthy. But that could very much be the case.